It's time for another tournament and tea break. I'm Ros Satar.
And my name is Rene Denfeld.
And, well, we seem to be having like nightly storms, don't we? Is this like a feature of La France that we need to get used to?
Quite frankly, I've had it up till here with the thunderstorms now, and I'm quite bored by it all. And it's been like 4 out of the first 7 nights, or 5 of the first 7 nights that we've been stuck in here, having rain, thunder coming down at about 9 p.m. and being basically stuck in the media center around 10 p.m. at night. And while I still have work to do anyways, and so do you, but I'm over it. I've had it up till here, and like, it can stop now.
It's only day 3, people, and already we're about to sort of declare war with umbrellas. However, there's quite a lot to get through, although unfortunately and inconceivably, we still haven't finished round 1. We'll get on to that, but this is now beginning to feel like the US Open, where round 1 actually lasts for about a week and a half.
Thank God it's not the case anymore. I mean, luckily the US Open saw sense and they stopped drawing out the first round until Wednesday, so they're only doing it on Monday and Tuesday now. That's good. Last year, of course, at the US Open, we had that one day with 500 matches because the Wednesday was rained off. Today we got off to a bit of an iffy start as well. It wasn't looking too great in the morning. I stayed in my flat until 12 and watched some tennis and did some laundry, which was very much necessary because I saw that it might be raining for about half an hour, and sure enough it did. And one of the pairings that was sent off court at 5-all in the first set was Garbiñe Muguruza and Svetlana Kuznetsova, who were, two-time slam champions on court 1. Some people raised eyebrows.
And just to explain, because obviously if people have been reading various tweets, they might get confused. And I actually spoke to another sort of freelancer who was here going, oh yeah, I've just been out on court 3 watching Muguruza and Kuznetsova, and I thought, you mean court 1? But effectively it's like the 3rd show court. Yeah. But yes, the point is that 2 former champions here got pushed out. And let's be honest, the scheduling and having to have all the matches that didn't get played yesterday, scheduled for 2nd today, didn't help the situation. But still, there were some questionable match choices. I know they want to put the Frenchies on the show courts, but Chardy and Berdych, really?
Well, I mean, Chardy and Berdych now got rained off, and we're going to have them on Chatrier again tomorrow, so that is just double luck for everyone, I suppose. And, I mean, some really good matches are going to end up being on not Chatrier, not Longland. And I think, personally, I love court 1. I think a lot of players love court 1, so I don't think it's that much is out there today. Tomorrow we're going to have Team Tsitsipas on court 18, which is the 4th biggest court. That's also something where I feel people are it's very far away from here. It's like a 15-minute walk.
It's like in Boulogne or something.
It's a bit like it's over on the other side of the Seine. But it is what it is. Sometimes it's about getting your match done. I think most of the players, particularly most of the top players, are like, yes, of course, I would prefer to be on the big show court, but I'll get it done. I'll get it done in the car park if need be. So. Muguruza did get it done in the end.
And I think, I did feel for her. Not only was she hoofed out to court 1, but at the time her press conference was announced, Nadal had managed to fight his way back in that crazy tiebreak against Simone Bilelli to match point. So actually, in terms of English-speaking journalists there was just myself and a radio guy. And we sat and waited. And, there's only so many sort of questions that you can actually ask without kind of treading over old ground. So, I mean, she was like kind of, there's nobody. And it's like, because it's Nadal's match point. She just sort of smiled and went, oh, well, that figures. But it's true. I came out of that, and like a gazillion people were tipping out of Chatrier as I was trying to make my way up the stairs because that match had just finished. It's a peculiarity of the Slam. It's great for people that have got tickets for these courts because they're going to be in for a packed schedule if the weather holds. But I don't know. I still feel that the ladies' side gets a bit shafted, and we'll come on to that later.
Sometimes I agree. Sometimes they draw the short end of the stick. They get handed the short end of the stick. I completely agree on that. However, some people got their matches done without too much of a kerfuffle. That would be two relatively young players who, on the men's side, who are seated this side for the first time. Kyle Edmund, Denis Shapovalov, both getting on with it quite well.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Shapovalov allowed the conditions to futz with his mind a little bit. He was getting very agitated. You know, he, much like Britain's Cameron Norrie, hadn't really played any clay. Maybe just used it to mould a teapot or an ashtray for an elderly relative, really. But you could see that, you know, that obviously the heavier the clay gets, the claggier it gets, and the more likely you are to roll an ankle and do yourself an absolute mischief, or as we now call it, do yourself a goffin. So, you know, you could tell why he was getting a little bit agitated, and it really affected him because he found himself 1-4 down. But credit to the boy, he started to get himself back in there. Maybe the break helped him a little bit as well because, he's still my one to watch.
I think it was just the occasion and also the playing here for the first time, and also being on the big court for the first time, where he basically said, "Oh yeah, you put me out on that big court for the first time," and it's just, I think he was getting used to it, and I think just like with his entire clay season, he turned a corner quite quickly and just got used to it, and then got things done, which is good, which is good for him. And I think too that they sort of but they sort of mirrored the sort of what we've seen on the men's side all day in terms of not a lot of upsets, things going quite well for the big names. Marin Cilic threw very early, Nadal getting his match done, and then around, what was it, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. maybe, the one returnee finished her match, a topsy-turvy one, and the other one started hers on Chatrier.
I know, it was blessed timing, really. Yes. So Maria Sharapova, Maria with a 3, started out pretty well, and then either Hogenkamp really lifted her rates, or I think just Sharapova kind of lost the plot a little. Lost
her rhythm a little. That's what she said afterwards. Like, I felt I played pretty good tennis, and then I just kind of lost my way a little bit, but fought back in the end in the third set, the way that she does, and I think the way that she's done many times before she's had her suspension due to meldonium. So I feel that, it was kind of a match from Sharapova that we've seen over the years, where things might not have gone great all the time, but she found a way to win, and that's what she's always been good at.
And, you know, following on from her great run in Rome.
Yes.
So, you know, which is possibly the best we've seen her play in a long while. You know, I think that marks her out as one to definitely watch. And literally, as she was coming off court, Serena Williams was making her entrance, I think is the right way to put it. She owned that catsuit, and she really, I think, actually played pretty well, considering she was playing Pliskova minor and having to deal with that tricky lefty side, lots of aces, again not much rhythm to be going on with. She hadn't played any of the clay court season, but we know that she's very good at building herself into form.
I'm curious to see just how it's going to go once she gets into matches with people who are happier to rally and happier to stick around. I'm curious to see. My just general approach with Serena this week was just let's just wait and see. I find it just so tough to have crazy expectations for her. Some people do have crazy expectations for her. I just want to see how she did. I thought she did. She was sharp when she needed to be today. Still obviously rusty. I mean, there's no way that she wouldn't be rusty, especially it's not like she's just didn't play some tournaments for, I don't know, for some weird reason or whatever. She's still working her way back from giving birth to a daughter in September last year. So I still feel like it's best to have some tempered expectations, but I think she played pretty well today. Got the match done in 2 sets. Second set was a little bit topsy-turvy here and there, but But
I think that's, I mean, you know, she tried to sort of say that, you know, I mean, the second set definitely there was more raise, and I think it's possibly because she was getting a better read on the Pliskova serve. In the first set, she absolutely wasn't.
No.
And it took her about a set to get her eye in. Barty is going to be a huge test for her, I think, because she will mix it up. She will give her a lot of variation, and I think that's going to be pretty.
It's going to be a different test, but for me, the thing with Barty is but he doesn't really dig the clay. Ash doesn't really dig the clay. She's like, another week on clay, it's just another week closer to grass. Kind of is almost her mantra. So, yes and no. I think Barty's definitely got the tools in terms of how she plays to make things difficult for Serena, but it's on clay, and we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Why don't we do what Serena says and just take her match by match? But I think she's going to give us a lot to talk about over the next week. One thing that we didn't discuss when we were talking about young guns, of course, was Kyle Edmund. He was in incredibly impressive form, and he seems to be wearing the mantle of a British number one very, very well. Back in Indian Wells when he and Andy crossed in the rankings, he said that he felt like the reality was he's been playing and going up, and obviously Andy hasn't been playing and his rankings have been dropping off. But now I just get the feeling that he wears that, maybe not that elder statesman part of it, that's to come, but he definitely wears that mantle well. He expects it of himself. So a very good round for him.
And he's got the confidence to, she's got the confidence based on the last couple of weeks to kind of pull that off, and that's good. It's good for him. It's good for him, honestly.
In fact, the men have done pretty well, actually. And Nadal and most of the seeds have gone through. We'll have a look at the scattered seeds tomorrow once we've actually got Halep out the way, one way or the other.
Women's as well. I actually think today that if there's not been a lot of casualties, most of the big names went through, or well-known names went through, whether it's Kerber, whether it's Muguruza. So not a lot of shocks there. Highest seed to leave on the men's side so far has been Jack Sock. And Jack Sock has left not just with he said he felt about the way he feels about his tennis right now is, quote, pretty shitty. Not the only thing that was a little bit dire in terms of what Sock put on display. His behavior towards umpire Paula Vieira-Sousa was, personally, I found quite disgraceful and just completely off. And he got roasted from many people I've seen, quite rightly so. I don't have much to say. The way that if he tells an umpire basically that because I am the player here, and because if I wasn't here, you wouldn't even be here, I find that just pathetic.
And it's just sad that the clay court season has brought two incidents in particular to the fore. There was Gerald Donaldson fronting up against Arnaud Gabas in a very an unnecessarily aggressive way, and now you've got Sock behaving like a bit of a jerk. And what it does is just paint a picture for the Americans of just a sense of entitlement. I mean, the number of tweets I saw of, well, we don't like him either, world, so we're sorry from Americans. This is not a good look for American tennis at all.
I think for me, just with Donaldson, it was an almost isolated incident. It was a terrible look, and I'm not condoning it by any means. But with Stock, it was more something. It was like kneeling someone and just behaving badly towards an umpire for 4 hours, and I find that just so unnecessary.
And we know that he can behave like a jerk as well. However, it only takes one sort of thing of behaving like that and then thinking you can get away with it. So let's hope that Donaldson doesn't revert to that kind of behaviour again, because if he does, then he's going down that same path. In terms of the one seed, so basically, I have got a scattered seeds article that has been waiting now for 4 days to be completed, and the reason being that the one person that hasn't played there, that hasn't even set on foot, much less started and had it rained off, is Simona Halep. She was scheduled last on Chatrier.
She was never going to get on.
She was never going to get on as soon as the rain started. So the world number one on the women's side won't actually play her first round match until day 4, or if we're being charitable, day 3.5. But either way, she's not going to actually play it until Wednesday. And
rotten luck.
I just think that's ridiculous. It is rotten luck, but it is ridiculous. She's that kind of a person that will be like, well, okay, it's another thing. I roll my ankle at the Australian. I roll my ankle here. I don't get to play until like the middle of the first week, but it's just ludicrous.
Yeah, I think it's not great, but I think Simona is so much of has grown into her position where she is in the rankings that She'll deal with it like a pro. She'll deal with it like a pro. I think she's going to win her first round match tomorrow against Risk early on, and then she'll have a second round match, which is, I don't have it in my head, but I remember it was manageable. Like her road into the third.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think
row is fine.
I
think, and with that in respect, I think she'll be totally fine. Is it great that she's not getting her first match started? I don't know, until Wednesday when people have finished their first round match on Sunday. Absolutely not. But someone was going to draw the short stick. Unfortunately, it was Halep. But I think she's on first tomorrow, so that's good. It's probably better that they called her off early tonight than having her hang around for another 3 hours and told her, hey, do you know what? It's at 5 p.m., go home, rest up, you're up first tomorrow. It's probably easier that way.
So tomorrow we should be able to come back at you with things that we learned from the first round, and probably from a huge chunk of the second round, to be absolutely fair. We'll hope that the weather gods are kind to us, and by kind to us I mean not only just the day's play, but also that we don't actually have to swim home. And on that note, of course, you have been listening to Ros Satar from Britwatch Sports
And Rene Denfeld of MyTennis.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Au revoir.